All right. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, g'day. My name's Jason Waterhouse. I'm an artist, sculptor, and do several other things on the side as well.
All right, let's start with your art.
Yep.
What art are you making?
So, I'm predominantly a sculptor. I take existing things and kind of mess with them. So I'm interested in kind of creating impossible possibilities. So within my work, I will take a recognizable object, then manipulate it in a way that's completely convincing, as in it can be totally, you could imagine it being a natural part of that object, except it's doing a totally impossible thing. So yeah, impossible possibilities.
Impossible how?
For example, my current show, which is called The Insurmountable Weight of Every Little Thing, I was sort of interested in ideas of weight, whether it be physical weight, emotional weight, or lightness, heaviness, etc. And I've cast a bunch of leaves and branches from the actual leaves and branches, and then modified them so they stretch impossibly, or they're crazy heavy. So a little tiny branch is sitting on a very heavy steel trestle, and then the steel trestle's being like completely bent and buckled by its weight, and where the branch comes over the edge, the trestle's like all folded down like it's, a trillion tons kind of crushing down on it, but it's this beautiful little cast, absolutely fine branch that's creating all this this bending and manipulation on the trestle. So so that's just one example. You can go right back through my practice to where one of the pieces that always stands out that everyone uses as eye candy on everything is a Kingswood I did for McClelland Sculpture Park, to be 15 or more years ago now, a long time ago. Time I don't have any concept of time anymore. It's left me several years ago. But yeah, several years ago I got a HQ Kingswood station wagon and manipulated the front so it kind of looks like it's come to life and is stepping itself up onto a white perfect plinth. And the Kingswood I pulled out of a shed in Shepparton, I think it was, and I cut and shut it and changed all the bodywork, all in steel, just like you'd customize a hot rod. So it's all sectioned and channeled and all the rest. But yeah, the guard is perfectly curving up, as natural as you can imagine a guard to curve up onto a plinth, and then refinished it all so the paint is all flaky and powdery, exactly like the rest of the car. And it becomes an impossible possibility because it's not a crash. It's not, it doesn't look like it's been formed. It looks like the car's literally gone, oh, fuck this, I'm becoming art, and stepping itself up on the plinth, It's, and that's, that goes back over a decade, and now I'm still doing similar stuff. But sometimes, that impossible possibility can be through materiality. So a couple of shows back, I'm going to use that as my timeline because a couple of solo shows back, I have one every about 2 years, so that gives you an idea. I carved in marble a panel beater's hammer. It was my dad's hammer, and it's my favourite hammer now. And I carved it all in marble, and out of the handle of the sculpture is this crystalline marble sort of spilling or growing out of it. And then the hammer itself, so it's like the hammer head, the crystalline sculpture's marble, but then the rest of the hammer I've painted back to look exactly like the hammer. So it's 1-to-1 scale. The paint right down to every little chip, every little crack is completely faithfully reproduced, to the point where my father came to the opening and he's like, you wrecked my favorite hammer. And I'm just like, yes, win, yes. So impossible possibilities. So things that are just totally, you could call it a bit sci-fi, you could call it a bit surreal. I hate the word surreal, but you could call it that. You could, but they're all the objects become just doing these things and shifting and morphing into things that just don't make sense, but kind of do, because it's completely plausible, because it's perfect, as perfect as I can do it. I shouldn't use the word perfect, because I still look at it and go, fuck, I could have done that better.
I think most artists do that.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about your process, like from the concept stage, like how you come up with
Okay.
the concept.
So my work's kind of autobiographical. It very much speaks to where I'm at the time. So my current show, which is as I said, it's all recast native stuff that's actually from my country property. I live on 10 acres in a little town called Glen Lyon, which is just near Daylesford. And I spend most of my week in Shitsville sunshine in a factory running my business Sculpture Co, which makes large-scale public art. So I'm kind of, and that's going really well, and I'm flat out there all the friggin' time. And so I'm kind of, I think there's a bit of yearning for home going on. And so I've made a body of work that's just all these beautiful, natural, delicate, fine things. And also that's also informed about my current, because I'm making huge public art projects on behalf of artists. And so the last thing I want to do is big stuff for myself. So I'm making, it's almost like, it's just the most finest, almost jewelry scale stuff. So as I said, it's autobiographical. Then the process is driven by the end point that I'm chasing. So this current body of work, I've shifted the materiality of the object. So that's kind of, so that's informed the work, and everything's raw state bronze in the show. Whereas in the past, I've used the actual objects. So I've had whole bodies of work that use the existing object, and then I've, sculpted on top of it, glued stuff, to it. I use a lot of carbog, for example, as a medium, so I'll add and then carve and reduce, and add and carve and reduce. And then the final finish with the paint and stuff. So it goes absolutely back to the original object. So it just depends on the body of work. But there was kind of a materiality shift in the show with the hammer that I was talking about 3 shows ago, where that show was called Deceptions. And I was kind of interested, being a sculptural elitist, and I believe it is the best art form because it exists in real time and space. So sculpture, it can't deceive, it can't lie, because it occupies real time, real space. It's affected by the light, the wind, the smell, the breeze, the way you touch it. It's cold, it's hot. It reflects the sun's heat. It reflects the night's cold. And it's it is real time. Unlike a painting, which, in all respect to painters, but paintings, at the end of the day, they're an illusion. So they create illusion for the viewer, whether it's a landscape that alludes to depth or light or color, but it's all smoke and mirrors, whereas sculptures, bang. So on that point, I'm sorry how many people I've offended just then, but oh well. Sculpture, I love it. I wanted to create a body of work that was like painting. So I wanted to create a body of work that was sculpture, but deceived like painting, and I mean, photography kind of sits in the sculptural realm because it also captures moments of time, but it's still static. It's just still a static reality, whereas sculpture is eternal and lives in current state. So even that. So anyway, sorry, getting off topic. Coming back to where I was. Where was I? Oh, yes. So I wanted to create a body of work that created illusion like painting and other art forms. So I played with the materiality of stuff. So I cast things in bronze, and then painted the bronze to look exactly like the thing that was cast. So a branch. So I used a lot of manigums, for example, and they have beautiful silvery bark with brown sort of, bits that come around and cracks and all sorts of lovely things. And so I was casting the branches direct with modifications in bronze. So it'd be a branch that might morph into a geometric form that was polished bronze. But then the branch section itself, I was painting to look as faithfully as I could, and I think I did all right. So lots of people have told me I did all right. So I painted them as faithfully as I could to look exactly like the manigum they came from, or the hammer that I told you about before, or there was a marble garden tap. So I carved a marble garden tap 1-to-1 scale that again was spewing these marble crystals, but the tap itself was totally painted like an old copper tap. So it sort of became a seamless transition that, impossible possibility. Yeah, and so there was a distinct shift. Before then, I was using existing objects, and shifting them and changing them. Same process, except I was adding on to existing things rather than changing the materiality of the whole thing. Yeah, so there's sort of been a clear trajectory from that. So there was the Deception show, then I introduced more plant work, which was called Domestic, where I was mucking around with domestic plants. Again, and it's probably got to do with thinking about home, like I talked about before, because this was all through a period that was through COVID. I built that body of work, and I was in the factory in Melbourne, making stuff still because we're manufacturers, so we could still operate, which was cool. But I made a body of work that was all houseplants that had bronze kind of geometric things happening and crystalline forms and stuff. And I was painting like lots of succulents and stuff and painting them all exactly like this, back to the succulent. I did a really, my favorite, well, the hero piece in that show was a rubber plant that I cast, and that was the first plant that I cast the leaves at the exact thickness of the plant, which is a whole other conversation about the technical stuff with that. But it's about yay high. About 1.5 meters high, and so it's the top of a rubber plant with the leaves coming out and that beautiful red spike that they have, and then at the bottom it sort of morphed into this stainless steel square section, like I think it's about 10 mil by 10 mil, natural finish stainless that was kind of almost Art Deco in form, had these beautiful kind of curved legs like buttress roots, except they were geometric, man-made forms. And I painted that exactly like the rubber plant that it came from.
So on that one, you said the leaves.
Yeah.
Which I'm not that, I like plants, but I don't know that much about them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine the leaves are quite thin.
Yeah, super thin.
You said you cast them?
Yeah, so...
Why did you cast them? Well, surely there's another way to form something.
No, because I needed them to live eternal because they're sculptures. So I've transferred the material to bronze. I'm super lucky. My business partner in Sculpture Co has Fundair Foundry. So I have like a foundry and the most brilliant technician at my fingertips. I've just got to be patient and smile at Cameron politely and say nice words, and he'll experiment with me. But what we've been trying to work out is how to cast bronze at the thickness of a leaf, which is impossible. You go to any foundry, even jewelry casters, like, no, you've got to fatten it up with wax. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I want to cast these exactly at the thickness. And so we sort of worked out a way. We do a thing called lost wax ceramic shell casting, which is where you have it's usually a wax sculpture, but any combustible thing to do, hence I can do branches and leaves. You invest it into a ceramic shell mold with airs and feeders, which are like pipes to let the bronze in and the air out. So you invest it in a ceramic shell mold, then you put it in a kiln, you burn the object out, creating a void. So at that point, the sculpture's space and time, it's air, it doesn't exist, but it's a negative space inside this shell, which I love the magic of that. Then we take that and fill it up with bronze. So you're sort of limited by the pressure of the bronze and gravity and the air getting out. So to be safe, if you want shit to work, you've got to work to at least 4 mil. Whereas, as we all know, a leaf is super thin. So we've sort of been working out a technique where we can bring the ceramic shell up to pretty much the same temperature as the molten bronze, which is about 1200 degrees thereabouts. So we get up to about 1000 degrees, so the mold's like glowing red and super hot. And then we're finding if we dump the bronze in super hot, we can get it to really fill crazy voids. But I still get 50% loss. Like it's a dark art. It's not a it's not a major it's hit and miss, but that's kind of beautiful too, because especially with my current show on at Oigle Projects, a big part of the language of the work is the degradation and loss through the casting process. So you've got these super thin gum leaves that have got, like, they look like they've been eaten by bugs. They've got all these little beautiful miscasts, and light comes through them, and there's little chewed edges, and I'd invested perfect leaves, and I never know when I'm going to get out. And so that's been exciting for me too with this new body of work, because in the past, I've been such a fucking control freak with the work. Like, it's I very much I ideate the endpoint, and the way my brain works, I'll just stay up for a couple of nights. Like, I just have chronic insomnia, and I'll work out every single little facet of the process that I've got to do to create the endpoint, and then I work my way, and then the rest is process and kind of boring, you know. But whereas this work, I've had to let that all go because of this new process, and I lose so much stuff that it's just like, well, you know, of course I start with the starting point, and I'm hoping to get some cool shit out of it. But I also know I have to let that go and just see what comes out, and then shift my ideas to Sue, which has been really kind of nice, you know.
I find it really interesting. I guess the way you're working. I mean, going back to the leaf and casting the leaf, I mean, you could have formed that out of some sheet metal, right?
Yeah,
but you need to have made the mold with an actual living leaf from a plant for you to be satisfied with it. Am I getting that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I did an interpretation of the object, then no longer is it an impossible possibility. It becomes, the language completely changes, and it becomes a representation of the thing that I'm trying to speak to. It just wouldn't work for me, and for other artists, there's of course, you know, go down that route. But my whole thing, you know, there's power in recognition and nostalgia and connection and all these things. It's really, really important to me when I'm presenting work that, you know, once I'm done, once I've gone, fuck, that just has to be good enough, you know, and I present it, it's not my work anymore. I love the idea that the viewer can then embed their own ideas and their own belief systems and their own memories and things, and take their own experience from the work. That's really super important to me because art needs to be revolutionary. You know, it needs and for a revolution to happen in art, it takes one person having an emotional response and maybe looking at something slightly differently, and you fucking won. Like, that shit is the shit. You know. So I find, and it's a cheat, it might even be lazy, but I find if you use a signifier that people can instantly connect to and relate to, you're already winning. You're already halfway at that point where someone can go, oh, remember when I walked through the forest and this leaf fell from a tree and I just thought of my childhood, you know, like... whatever it is, or I scratched the leaves back so it revealed the skeletal structure underneath, and they go back to this beautiful place where we had time and sat and the sun, you know. Wouldn't that be nice to be able to have the power to do that for someone? Like, that's what art is. That's a revolution, you know. That's the shit. Yeah.
I mean, you're an artist, and process is important to artists, right? And obviously, it's very, very important to you. Do you think it's important also to viewers? I like to think it is. Like, when I view art, I think process is one of the things I'm thinking about when I look at somebody's artwork. You think the same?
Look, I run a contemporary art space as well, just because I don't have enough hats on. I have Stockroom Kyneton, which is a 1,000 square metre butter factory with three art spaces that are curated, plus a massive stockroom space. So we've been running for 13 years, and we have 3 shows every 6 weeks. It's a lot of art that's gone through the doors. The power of stockroom is that, and why I think it's been really successful, is because it's like public artwork. It's a surprise attack space. So it's in a country town called Kyneton. It's on a tourist belt, so it's in Piper Street, which is known as the style capital of Central Victoria. We get probably 80% tourist trade who have no fucking idea what they're walking into. We have a little sign on, it's a massive building, and it has a little sign out front that says stockroom. And that's about it. So there's not even any windows. There's just big glass doors that you walk through, and you just see like people like reeling, going, "What have I just walked into?" But they're kind of committed at that point, and so suddenly they have to confront their realities with contemporary art. We show a massive, broad range of artists, from contemporary craftspeople through to really contemporary artists at the forefront of what they're doing. Like our next exhibition, which is opening this Saturday coming, is Cameron Robbins, who lots of your listeners would know as the guy who does the wind drawings, who had the solo show at Mona, and he's internationally renowned as an incredible artist who harnesses the physics of nature through his process. And then next door we've got a young and amazing emerging artist called Nicholas Burridge, who melts fucking rocks, for Christ's sake. He's a hero. He for my shitbox, I'm doing the shitbox rally. There's another hat. We'll talk about that later. But he painted racing stripes on the bonnet of my car and put gunpowder up it, and then lit it and made these most incredible like racing stripes you've ever seen on the car. But I'm getting really off topic here, but that's okay because it's all fun. What the point I'm trying to make is that I've shown artists who are really conceptually and process driven, and the art world, really engages with that. The educated art world really engages with that stuff. But then there's this thing called the general public, which the art world really needs to remember is about 98% of people. And I'm not sure they give a toss about process. Some do. Certainly once you spend the time to engage with the artist, and Cameron Robbins is a great example of this. For your listeners and viewers who don't know Cameron Robbins, he harnesses the physics of nature, basically. The body, I'll speak to one body of work he does because it's the most well known, and but he creates wind drawings. So he has a drawing instrument that's powered by the speed and direction of the wind. So you have like is it a barometer? Like on a weather station that measures the speed of the wind. You've got these cups which goes through a series of pulleys, which then is connected to a flexible arm, which is connected to a pen, which then goes to the page, and then it kind of oscillates and creates these beautiful line work. And then the page is on a board which is connected to pulleys, which is connected to an arm like on a windmill. So as the wind changes, it turns the page, and you get these beautiful durational works, which are a completely new way to map the changing weather. So the wind conditions, the rain, all these things influence the work, and then it becomes about how Cameron tunes the instrument and then intervenes and chooses to stop the drawing. So heavily process driven. Joe Plummer comes in and looks at it and some scribbles on a page. Then I start talking to Joe about, for example, at the back of the space, Joe always is drawn to those. I'm really being really generalizing here, but Joe's drawn to another Cameron Robbins piece we have, which is this incredible fog vortex, which uses the updraft of the enormous chimney we've got from the butter factory days. But Joe will get drawn into that. He'll ask me about that piece, and I'll go, "Oh, well, dude, check this stuff out." And then I engage with him about this idea of Cameron's, and the next thing you know, Joe Plummer's just bought his first contemporary artwork, because process becomes really important once you have that in. So I suppose to answer your question, it's all about how you choose to give the viewer the in. So with my work, Joe Plummer will see, for example, that it's metal, and then he'll be like, "Oh, cool, what's going on there?" And then hopefully he'll engage further and look at the technique and those things. Or he might just, if it's a car, it's a no-brainer. Like Joe Plummer's going to be into the car. But, it's process, is incredibly important to get to that point. But what I think is the most important when you're an artist is to think about what the general public are going to think about that at that point. And really the process doesn't mean shit at that point. It's what they see, and then you get to loop back into the process, and that's when that's when more magic happens, because if you've done your job right, then suddenly there's a whole new dialogue opening for someone who's maybe never considered that language before. And one day I hope to get there. That'd be so cool.
I think with the general public, there could be this thing of maybe a little bit intimidated, maybe, or maybe there's a perception of the arts world and artists that I think is wrong. Artists are very approachable people, and a lot of the time
Artists
willing to share.
Yeah.
But that sort of I guess, education for somebody who's never been exposed to
So Dave, look,
process-driven piece of art, take that opportunity and explain it to them, and they will appreciate it, I believe.
I 100% agree with you. I don't mean to discount the general public at all. I cater to them every single day of my life. And where my interest lies is bringing people into the fold. As far as I'm concerned, artists are God people. They are the gods, because they're the only people who exist who create pure language from nothing, which is what our fairy gods in the sky do. They create, the fairy gods created everything. Well, that's what artists do. They have pure thought, pure imagination that hopefully doesn't exist anywhere else, and they create and they actualize it and they ideate it, and then they create it into a physical thing. That's gods, so, and you can't mess with that. And the problem is, we have created an environment that's so elite and so intimidating and so isolative that suddenly our audience has dissipated. They've left us. We don't create revolutions anymore, because fucked if I'm going to walk into a clean white space with a severe-looking lady behind a desk who just scowls at me and doesn't even say hello. I'm not doing that shit. So, it's crazy, and you miss this whole opportunity, which is again why I'm so into public art and that sort of stuff. But how dumb? It's dumb. So create spaces that people want to enter. Create spaces that engage. I did the worst thing that you could possibly do for your show.
You can take the call if you want.
No, it's all good. I don't know the number. It's if it was someone I knew, I would have taken the call. But clearly, it's a Sydney number, so they probably want to sell me solar energy or something. But I already live off grid in an off grid house.
Why doesn't that not surprise me?
Yeah, so they can nick off. But anyway, getting back on topic. So I think, and again, I'm sorry to spruik my own wares, but Stockroom, we have we have one white cube space. It's literally a cube. It's 7 meters by 7 meters with a 3.6 meter wall, it's a square. But then our other two spaces are much warmer. But then our main space, we present contemporary art in the context of how you live with it. So we're quite irreverent. We put shit against the wall. We'll hang things next to a vase. We get these beautiful, high-end ceramics and stuff, stick flowers in them. We create vignettes, and we present things kind of not chaotic. It's very curated, but it's curated chaos, if you know what I mean. So there's exactly as I said, we create vignettes that are like real life, and suddenly you get the best thing for me is to sell a piece of art to Joe Plumber. It's and I'm sorry for all the Joes and the plumbers. I know that's really we should say probably, yeah, but it's the best thing to pop someone's art cherry, that's the biggest victory for myself and Magali, my partner, who actually runs the space. I'm sitting here taking all the credit that I do all the work in the space, but my partner Magali does pretty much 98% of the work, and then I swan into a podcast and go, my gallery.
Well, you've done the right thing by giving props.
Yeah, totally, man.
Person running the joint.
Yeah, I got myself off the hook there, but Magali and I, we ran it together for 11 years. So we were 24 hours a day, 7 days a week running that art space, and then I started the business in Melbourne, and she's taken over the running of the space. I still do a bit of curatorial stuff, but hilariously, the gallery's never done so well since I nicked off. So all credit to her. I was clearly a distraction from the success.
All right, you mentioned the business in Sunshine. So what led to that?
COVID. It's a COVID baby. So COVID hit us. We have a contemporary art space in a tourist belt in a country town. You can imagine what my heart did, a fuck ton of debt. We started the business, with a tiny bit of borrowed money from my nana, 10 grand from nana and 10 grand from a mate, and 2 maxed out credit cards was how we started Stockroom. Back on track. Yeah, so COVID hit. We've got lots of debt now, because that's what happens when you have big ideas in country towns. And COVID hit, and we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? So thankfully, my mate Cameron, who has Funde Foundry, I was talking to him. He's like, dude, come work for me. I can still work through this because I manufacture and I've got work on. I've got, racehorse to make and a couple of monuments and whatever else. And so I did. So I started, going through the iron wall with my permit and going to work. And and Cameron, unbeknownst to Cameron, bless his cotton socks, I've been sort of cooking this idea of Sculpture Co for several years, of having a business that works as a conduit between the commissioning body and the artist creating large-scale public artworks. And I pitched it to Cam, and Cam's like, oh, yeah, I've thought about this too, but, there's no way I can do it. I just, I don't have the time to do that stuff. And I'm like, well, you've got the facility. Let's do it. And so we started, Sculpture Co, which is a general sculpture manufacture company, and we'll do anything. So obviously we can do bronze because of the foundry, but we do a lot of high finish stainless steel, automotive finish stuff, fiberglass, you name it. We're having a crack at it, because we've got this amazing team of people who work with us. And then we've got companies outside of that who I've, over many years of making sculpture, because I did have a little workshop at Stockroom as well, because it's a really big building, and I used to do a little bit of public art stuff. But with Cameron and my powers combined, we've got an amazing network of people. So we do everything from 3D scanning to CNC milling, a lot of digital technology, 3D printing, but using outsourcing through people we have existing relationships with. So it started, and I was also really interested in the idea of making public art really equitable for sculptors as well, because again, all respect to sculptors, but most artists I come across are fucking terrible businessmen, like the worst. They're just, when it comes to budgets and delivering on time and being able to flex to the powers of the bureaucrats and not flex when necessary to the power of the bureaucrat, and keep your integrity through that whole process. It's really, really hard. And I wanted to create a business that nurtured and fostered that whole thing through that process in a really collaborative way, so the artist retains the integrity of their outcome and amazingly gets paid. Because most public artwork, there's a whole history now of artworks being commissioned by councils and other major commissioning bodies at cost for the artist. So basically what that means is the artist, it's an amazing opportunity to have this incredible work in the public, and they don't get paid. They max out the budget, so all their production costs are there plus some, and then they forget, and then they don't get paid an artist fee, because there's this whole culture of, for 60 grand, the council wants a 6-meter sculpture, which is fucking impossible. You can't do it unless you don't get paid. And so this is a big part of it too. Is I'm right into educating. I have so many meetings with council people going, update your fucking public art policy. Get someone on your board who actually understands what it costs to make things. And sitting down and I'm very clear with artists that if they're going to go for a public art project, talk to me before you even put the application, man. We quote for free. It costs you nothing. Like, tell me your concept. Let's go through it together. What's the budget? Oh, yeah, okay. Bang, bang, bang. This costs that. This costs that. This costs that. Go for it. Let's do it. You can get your 15, 20% artist fee, paid plus get paid to produce you can make real money instead of, because artists have to get paid.
The artist doesn't get paid, but everyone else does.
Everyone else. Do you know what those consultants get paid to make those fucking contracts that no one ever reads, and then you get screwed at the end because you didn't read your contract because it's 80 pages long of garbage? Like, it drives me insane that, the last person to get paid is the most important one. And that culture's got to change. And so Cameron and I are both really passionate about that. And we started this business, and shit, man, it's just gone nuts. Like, I didn't realize that with, Cameron McIndoe and Jason Waterhouse and their powers combined, how much of a, like, whoa, you guys are doing that, we're in, and we've just got people coming out from everywhere, and massive jobs on. Like we've got just insanely huge jobs that I'm not allowed. I've got bloody disclosure agreements about, that are going to launch for the triennial. That's just going to be nuts, and it's exciting and it's huge. I'm just quite tired, but that's okay.
I think one of the issues might be, I've spoken recently actually to a few people who've graduated art school, and I asked them, do they teach you business there? And apparently art schools, I never went to art school, art schools do not teach their students business, which is...
as far as I understand, there is a professional practice subject.
There is?
I don't know what that means. It was a long time since I've been to art. I went to art school in the 90s. I don't know, but I have heard a rumour that there's a subject called professional practice, and I would hope that with a name like that, it would cover some stuff. But it's a tough world, and it's really hard to make big stuff. Like, we've got a project on at the moment with a $700,000 budget. Now, can you imagine being a povo artist and that's your big break, and you're getting a fucking $700,000 job? It's a lot of money, and I don't know whether any professional practice subject could actually help your ass through that stuff, And so, call Sculpture Co. We'll help you.
Nice plug.
Yeah, thanks.
So how do you find making other people's work rewarding? It sounds like you do.
Look, I was a teacher in a previous life, so I taught at Swinburne TAFE for years and years and years, like over a decade. I thought I was going to be an art star when I was really young, and landed the job at Swinburne when I was like 21, and was teaching by the time I was 22 or 23, and I taught there for a long time. I love my big passion, I really get off on ideas. I love ideas. I love problem solving. I love thinking laterally and finding solutions to the maddest shit. It's my thing, and anyone who knows me knows it's my thing. So it's kind of a symbiotic thing. That running an art space is the same thing, having an art career is the same thing, and running a business like Sculpture is the same thing. It's for me is being able to go, so I don't know, give me an art idea. You want to make a 6 meter high work that talks about ocean currents, and you want to make it, so it feels fluid and always moving. And I'm like, okay, right. And what's your budget? So, okay, it's a $250,000 job. Okay, good. That's a good budget. So do we want a reflective surface? Okay, so let's do a reflective. Okay, so if you want a reflective surface that's going to undulate, right, we can cast in aluminium, or we could potentially beat form stainless steel sheet. But then do you want a smooth surface, or do you want like a hand beaten, organic kind of feeling thing? Oh, organic's great. Let's make it so it feels like it's wrought by hand. Okay, so all right, so we could make a power hammer out of, how would I make a power hammer? I don't have a power hammer. I've never made one. But you could use a car differential, which, has really good gears in it, and then that could then drive blah, blah, blah. You get the point, right? And that's so exciting for me, to be able to sit with someone and tease shit out and come up with an incredible endpoint. It's the stuff for me. And that's how my brain works, in a kind of mad, thousand thought obsessive way.
You mentioned art school. Is there an engineering background there as well? Did you go to engineering school or something like that?
No, is the short answer. I was straight out of high school. I got into Monash on a B grade preference with a folio of Screaming Heads. Sick. So it was real teen angst stuff. I don't know how they must have really been scraping the bottom of the barrel that year. But anyway, I got in as a bong smoking teenager straight into art school, and had this epiphany, like hitting second year, probably halfway through second year. I went, holy shit, this is the shit. Like, I love this. And I was so fortunate, and I still to this day count my blessings that I was lucky enough to fall into the rest of my life. But on your engineering thing and why I was great question is my father's an aircraft engineer, so I grew up in workshops.
I wanted to be one of those when I was in high school.
Yeah, so he worked for Qantas. He actually, for my whole childhood life, hasn't worked for Qantas. He worked there before I was born, but he's always, my dad's he's an artist in denial for sure. Like, you know, he's not at all like works like an artist, but he's definitely an artist in denial. But he also has incredible problem solving, and lateral thinking, but kind of fucking batshit crazy at the same time. Like, and he's 76, 77 now, and he's been obsessed with motorcycle trailers for the last few years, and he's onto his third one, trying to perfect the ultimate camper / motorcycle trailer. But the best dad story I can think of. Can I tell you a story about my dad?
Please tell us a story.
Right. The best, and this is a great example of my bonkers father, who I adore completely, entirely. But but he spent a long time being obsessed with toilets. We live on an off-grid property, which was his. He sold it to me when I was 21, so he could go live on a Buddhist centre. So he lives in Bendigo at the Atisha Centre, which is a big Buddhist community. He works with the monks. He's not a monk or anything, but he works with the monks. He helps them a lot with their art. So he does a lot of the rectification of the shitty sculptures that come over from India and are supposed to go into the temple, and they're just terrible. So he does a lot of that rectification work. Getting off topic. Anyway, the property that I live on, I bought off him when I was 21. It's an off-grid property. It was very rudimentary when I moved in. It was literally like 2 rooms. The lights were run off a car battery that he used to charge on the floor of the car, you know, literally have cables, and I'd be sitting there as a kid and there'd be a car battery between my feet, you know, which then we pull out and plug into the lights when we get into the house. But anyway, so off-grid, no toilet, you know, no power, all that sort of stuff. And we had a porta potty for years. It was terrible. But anyway, that's what we put up with. But he had all these toilet designs that he was always trying to perfect the perfect off-grid toilet, which was, you know, and I remember at one stage he was talking about, because the property's on a steep hill, so he wanted to have holding tanks above the house, because the house is cut into the hill, and then holding tanks above, and he was trying to work out how to get his shit uphill.
And trying to push shit uphill.
Yeah, he was trying to work out how to push his shit uphill, literally. And then he started coming up with this fucking design that was like a drop toilet with a seal that was kind of vacuum sealed, and then your shit would go into this holding tank, and then the holding tank would be then connected to a compressor. So then you press a button and it would pressurize the tank and shoot the shit uphill. And he was totally legit on this. It was like, this is going to work. Thank Christ he never made it, because it would have been... You imagine if you forgot to fucking shut the toilet lid and then press the pressurized button, and then the next thing you know, you're covered in shit.
You got to make it, or someone has to make it. I want to see it.
Yeah, it's a great idea for an artwork. We could do the poo shoot painter or something. It'd be brilliant. But that's the kind of crap that my dad, like, you know, obviously he does amazing genius things that actually work as well. But I love that story. It's like, I remember he was telling me, I'm like, Dad, are you serious? Like, you want a what? You know, great brain, incredible mind.
The reason I asked is because you mentioned your workshop in Melbourne has a CNC, and I was wondering, do you program that?
Oh, no, I don't.
It somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm cheating. We don't do any CNC milling. We have really close relationships with a company called C5 Systems, so which we fostered and built. No, I don't do computer. I pay people to do computer. So no, you get to a point, you know, I'm 47, and people our age will understand that you get to a point where you're kind of feeling like your hard drive's getting kind of full, and you got to kind of delete shit to bring on new shit, and I can't be bothered with, you know, learning CAD and all that sort of stuff. I like, you know, as I said, I employ people to do all the admin and the bureaucracy and the digital stuff, and I just love getting on the tools. That's my thing. So talking the shit, working out the ideas, getting on the tools, and doing physical, actual things. As you can see by my raggedy clothes, you know, I take off the leather apron and rush to podcasts. Yeah.
Having said that, is there Is there something you're wanting to learn? Is there
Oh,
something you're
always.
learning at the moment?
Dude, the day I stop learning, I'm ruined. It's over. Like, the day I go, yeah, I've done it all. Like that, what happens then? No, every day is a learning journey, and if it's not, it's a really bad day. Yeah, but I have to draw the line with where I want my skills, because I'm so scattergun with the way I do things. I've got to constantly reel myself in and realize my shortcomings and I call them shortcomings, isn't that bad? Where my just where my strengths lie and where I need to focus. And years ago I learned lots of Photoshop and stuff like that when I was doing my own stuff. So of course I can do it, but I just don't want to anymore. There's certain things I like real time. It's sort of probably it's probably some sort of weird psychological thing. Exactly what I was talking about before is loving things that sit in real time, and that computer realm. I just glaze over, man. Like it's just too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of, like, you work with a lot of metal, obviously. Is there a desire to work with other materials, say fiberglass, carbon fiber, anything like that?
I have.
So that's already a skill you've got under your belt.
Those boxes are ticked, dude.
Is there a skill under that you want to get under your belt that you don't have?
I'll tell you tomorrow when I realise that I have to do that job and I have to learn that skill.
So it's as you go along, a project needs a certain skill, and if you don't have it, you'll learn it then.
Oh, totally. Like I'm working with an incredible a collaboration with Auntie Kim Wandon, who's a Wurundjeri elder, and Chris Joy. They sort of do collaborative public art projects. They're a new collaboration, but they're kicking amazing goals with great. And I help them a lot, sort of build their concepts and well, not build their. Sorry, that's wrong. I don't help them build their concepts. I help them actualize their concepts. So I help them through. So they come up with concepts and ideas and sort of sketches of what they want to come do, and then I help them physically make it. And at the moment, we're for a client, we're trying to figure out how to create a 7 meter long woven eel trap that out of cable. I'm no Auntie Kim's a weaver. I'm not. And she doesn't weave with cable. She weaves with natural fibers. And so I'm learning now about cable technologies and what I can do with it and how I can create a mesh that's going to look like some sort of, woven basket eel trap thing that's going to come down this interior void in this new building that's being built and span 4 stories, and then I've got to learn about point loading and how much the cable weighs and all these things every day, and that's the mad thing, like, because Sculpture Co, there is no parameters. Like, we're not a metal workshop, we're not a bronze foundry, we're not a fiberglass workshop or a CNC milling work. We don't press sinks. So an artist will come to me and they'll be like, I want to do this, and I'm straight up, I'm like, I've never done that before, let's do it. Like, and you figure the shit out, and I mean, that's part of, you asked me whether I did engineering training. How I learned is, I don't know when I learned this, but I've actually always done it, is if you give people the respect of knowledge, right? So even if I know the shit they're telling me, I give the person the respect that of what they're telling me, and I give them the time, and I'm interested. And man, there's always a little technique I can glean from that conversation. So many fuckers will talk over you and tell you that they know shit better than you do. And those fuckers never learn anything, and they don't know shit better than you do because they're incapable of learning. Whereas if you give people the respect of their knowledge, and you give them the time, and you listen, and you love them for what they do, and you go, yeah, man, that's cool. And then suddenly they'll tell you about a little technique. Like my nana, when she was renovating her house, and she learnt that with the paint tin, you get a nail and you knock the nail into the little rim and punch a little hole 4 times around, and your paint tin never clogs up and your lid always fits. Fucking genius. Now, if you didn't sit there and talk and listen to the paint guy and have a good chat, and then suddenly he's like, and then you're talking about, and when I pour the paint, it always spills. He's like, get a nail and punch the nail in the thing. And it's like, that's gold. And you have that conversation with people and they'll always teach you something. It's fucking cool.
Has there ever been anything you can't do?
Yeah, I can't spell and I don't know my lefts and rights. And
you know what I mean, Jason.
No, I'm serious. I'm dead set. Okay. Yeah, like I've restored cars. Yeah. Like I restore cars as a sort of a little sideline pleasure, and I still don't know which way to turn a spanner. So I've never learnt lefty loosey, righty tighty. But you've got to know your lefts and rights to do that, dude. No, there's lots of things I'm shit at. You know, it's just but when it comes to my hands, yeah, I can do stuff.
More so, I'm thinking about like. Making a work for someone. Have you ever had to knock them back and say, look, I can't do this?
Budget wise, yeah.
but not technically.
But technically, if I can't do it, then I'll have a conversation with someone who can. You know, I can't do everything. I can't run a 3D printer or a CNC miller or a scanning machine or I'm not a very good aluminium welder. I can do it, but I'll get one of our other guys who's a better welder than me to do it. You know, again, it's about that respect thing. If you give everyone the respect and you build a team and you have lots of people around you, and this is, I suppose, all the sculptors know this, is sculpture's a collaborative thing. It's not like a painting where it's a really solo activity generally. Sculpture, you have to pull in teams because it's a really physical activity that usually requires suppliers and specialist equipment and all the rest. You talk. So, okay, I'll give you an example. Those of you who saw the Mithu Sen exhibition a few cycles back at ACCA, it was this incredible Indian artist. ACCA came to me literally in the 11th hour just before the show, and they wanted a 3.6 metre diameter rotating vitrine table with static legs, and the top of it rotated, and it had to be in sections so it could be shipped and have these acrylic things, and it had to turn 1 RPM every, I think it was 4 minutes, 1 RPM every 4 minutes. I've never done that shit before, but I was on the phone to Melbourne Motor Supplies, and I was on the phone to the caster shop and pulled in all these people to help me figure out, with literally 4 weeks to make it, how we can make this incredibly engineered rotating table, which we pulled off and we did it. And so there's heaps of shit I can't do. But yeah, you just got to have the right contacts in your iPhone or let Google be your friend and just talk nicely to people and you can do shit. It can be done,
What about concepts of your own work? Have you got? You don't have to be specific, but do you have any kind of concepts in your head that I guess you're not ready to do due to limits in your kind of skill set?
Oh, that's a. I tried to paint not long ago. I was shit at it.
Makes two of us.
Yeah, I got to stick to sculpture. Look, to be honest, no. It hasn't happened to me yet because I'm except for that painting one episode. I realised I gave it like an hour and went, yeah, no, this isn't right. I can draw, but I'm a terrible painter. Look, I'm sure, I think like anything, if you stick at something long enough, you can become some sort of hand at it. And I'm certainly the sort of person that if I want to learn something, I'll learn it, it's just, yeah, no, I can't really answer that directly because it hasn't happened yet. Yeah.
I asked the tough questions.
Yeah. Oof. Curly.
Have you ever thought about going back to teaching? That's because you taught, didn't you?
Yeah, I did teach for 10 years.
No, I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah, I still teach every day. I still have young artists coming in and picking my brains and going, how can I do this? I want to do this. And I love that shit. I'm a sucker for it. That's I should. and there's plenty of them who do, and I love it. But no, I don't want to go back to teaching. It's the bureaucracy around it. That's why I got out of it. I left TAFE right at the point where vocational outcomes were becoming the thing. So what that means is that the amount of money that your department is given is quantified by how viable you are. How viable the course is getting you a job at the end of your 2 years of your TAFE degree. And I was teaching in visual arts, so I just saw the department just getting sliced, down to the bone. And in the end, the resources were so thin. And I'm just like, this is fucked. Like, I can't deliver anything of quality anymore. And I can't stand doing paperwork, and I can't stand bureaucrats. Like, as I said, I employ people through Sculpture Co. Like, we do contracts, and we do bureaucracy, and we do OH&S, and we do, induction forms and all that shit. And I don't even do a single thing of any of those. I have a team who deals with that stuff, because fuck that. And teaching's so much about that now. And from all my friends who are lecturers and stuff, I just sort of, I couldn't do it. Yeah, I couldn't anymore, because I'm a doing person. I can't stand the fuck around the doing. I just want to get in there and tear shit up.
I mean, how would you improve arts education in Australia?
That's a really controversial question. I've got to be careful here. I don't think there's enough skills-based training in visual arts. I think the conceptual side of stuff is way too heavy, and there's not enough technical. And I have noticed it is coming back, and I need to give credit where credit's due. I've noticed that real push in the 2000s of just fucking off all the departments and doing a full conceptual delivery is now winding back, and suddenly people want to do ceramics again, and then the university goes, holy shit, we shut down the ceramics department in 2008. So there is that push again, but I really think, skills-based learning, which is hard in a university environment, because you do have such bureaucracy around OH&S and stuff, and using a table saw, God forbid, or something like that. But this is where it's just got to get real again. Like, it's, I think, a grassroots education that's about hands-on learning with really good conceptual grounding within it, but then actually doing the shit. And having really great technicians to guide you through doing the shit, and then having resources to then connect with industry to understand how to deal with those people to do the shit, because that comes back to the language again. Artists speak very different language to a metal shop, like to your local metal supplier, or to your, everyone speaks different languages in this. You must be able to speak about the aesthetic of black milled steel, and how you love the color variation with the blue rainbow, and how it creates a kind of softness in the hard edge form, and then go to the fucking metal shop and be like, mate, can I have some hot roll steel, because and can you make sure you don't scar the sheet, because I'm doing it for some art wanker. And they're like, oh yeah, cool, man. And then you get the stuff, like it's learning the languages to deal with the different people, and that's a hard task for any education or anyone to. And I'm speaking to sculpture here, obviously, because that's my world. It's really. But I do think it just all comes back, and that's why I love teaching in TAFE. To be honest, like we did a real skills based. I ran projects that were always about, there was a conceptual element, but then it always brought skills-based learning, because what I was really passionate about was to give the students a foot up. If they wanted to go into art school and apply for sculpture, they always got in one. Yes. But I wanted them to be able to go in there with a good grounding of how to use a hand tool, how to make things come together, to understand spatially, not only how to think spatially, which is how things are taught now, but to how actually to create spatially and that sort of stuff. More skills-based learning.
I think everyone needs to know how to learn how to use tools.
Totally.
A skill everyone should have.
Everyone should change the oil in their car. It's really easy, and you'll save $250. Like, it's there's so many things that you can do that people are scared of, that are really fucking easy. Do you know how to change the oil in the car? It's literally, you need an oil filter wrench, which is like $9 from Super Cheap Auto. You need a $40 bottle of oil, and you need usually a number 17 spanner. And you can whip off that little plug, you can change your oil filter, and you can fill your car up, and you can Google how many litres to put in there, and you'll save $250. It's super easy. You know,
he's not lying. He's not lying.
Yeah, there's so many things, but like everything, we're a fear-driven creature. You know, we're all. You know, it's the whole world. You know, it's pretty scary to go over those hump of what you don't know into those spaces. You know, change your oil.
You've given me a nice segue into my last question.
Yeah,
the shitbox rally.
Yeah, so that's another hat. So my wonderful partner Magali and I, and myself, Magali and myself, are doing what's called the Shitbox Rally. We're actually leaving this Sunday. It's been a long time coming, but is to raise money for cancer research. And the Shitbox Rally is an organisation, and they've raised like $40 million to this point towards researching cancer. The whole point of the thing is you take a car, and you're only allowed to spend $1,500 max. So that includes purchase, getting it on the road, fixing it up, doing what you have to do, preparation for the rally, $1,500, and you drive from different points across Australia on the worst possible routes. So in our case, we're starting in Port Douglas, which is up past Cairns, and we're driving to Adelaide, but down the centre of Australia. So through the Birdsville track, in a 1990 Ford Capri. For the non-car people, the Ford Capri came out. It was Ford Australia's answer to save the company. Basically, they were going to build this little sports car roadster, and it's a 2-door convertible little fake sports car, because it's not really a sports car. It's got like a Ford Laser, which is a little hatchback, running gear and stuff. But yeah, and it was absolutely maligned from the day it was launched as a total lemon. You know, the roof leaked, and you know the doors squeak because it has terrible rigidity through the chassis, so the car kind of flexes, and all sorts of issues. There's lots of articles on it if you're really that interested. But yeah, I thought, what a perfect car to do the Shitbox Rally in is Australia's Shitbox. So I went to my father found it actually through people he knew in a paddock on the outside of Bendigo, a $400 Ford Capri that had sat there since 2008. Was stripped for parts. It wasn't running. It was, sunk into the mud kind of car. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a great car to do it in. So I went and bought it for $400, and it was the worst decision of my year, pretty much. But I've been stealing every other Saturday for the last 6 months working on this car. I ended up, the first time I tried to start it, the timing belt exploded and the engine died, so I had to go find another engine for it. And, I've done the brakes, and, the fuel tank was full of sludge, and it's just been a nightmare. I basically rebuilt the car. I could have built a really cool car for the amount of effort I've put into this shitty Ford Capri. But being the people we are, we have to have a team name, so we've called ourselves Team Arty Box, in true tradition of a bogan, shitbox rally through the bush. And we've invited a whole bunch of our contemporary artist friends to create artworks on the car. So we're going to have on this crappy Ford Capri a contemporary art show running the length of Australia. Hilariously, it's actually going up and down because we left our booking the transport too late to ship the car up, and they booked out. So now we're driving to Port Douglas as well.
You're driving it up.
We're driving it up to Port Douglas
good
now.
Luck to you.
And then driving back. So yeah, leaving Sunday, back in 2 weeks. But anyway, so we've invited a bunch of contemporary artists to do artwork. So we've got Cameron Robbins, I was talking about before. He's made a bump box that sits underneath the seat. So it's a little sealed box with things in it that are going to create a drawing on a piece of copper on the bottom, and then it has a piece of paper on the top. And so we'll get to pull out the drawings at the end of the rally. We've got Nick Burridge has done an explosive work on the bonnet, so he did some racing stripes and then put gunpowder up them and then lit the gunpowder. It's made this amazing sort of drawing on there. Robert Haig's got a lithograph on the bonnet. Peter D. Cole's done a artwork on a door. Ben Atkins done an artwork. Sorry if I'm forgetting anyone. Judd Vinhurst has done this amazing bonnet mascot, which is this kind of the blingiest skull you've ever seen that sits between the spotlights on the front of the car. Who else is on there? Nick Ives has painted donuts on the back because the Capri is never going to be powerful enough to do donuts, so instead it has donuts. Melissa McFarlane's given me a very heavy cast iron sausage, which I've stuck on the boot. Robbie Rowlands, he got off eBay some musical horns that play La Cucaracha, and he was going to detune them or chop them up as he does with his practice, like as in the tuning. So they played the most messed up La Cucaracha, but he loved the La Cucaracha so much he left it as it was. But you can check us out on Instagram. So if you just search Team Artie Box, and there's heaps of videos of all the process of people making their art and all the stupid stories of Magali and I, like her very funny reaction to when I first brought the car and just lecturing me on how shit my life choices are.
You didn't get the turbo, did you? They came out as a turbo.
No, I got the base model with the single cam 1.6 litre motor. But the most embarrassing thing, David, is that I kind of like the car now. It's so ridiculous, and
it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah,
it's a work of art in itself.
It is. Like I've put bar work. Well, my friend Millie helped me make bar work on the front, and I built a boot rack, and it's got a snorkel, which is for the air intake that I've made out of toilet pipe. And it's just Larry and ridiculous and so silly. It's kind of really fucking cool.
Well, on that note, thanks for coming along, Jason, and having a chat.
Absolute pleasure to be given the opportunity to sit on your lovely green couch and endlessly talk shit.
It was great having you.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.